5.6 Scale Drawings. Scale gives the ratio that compares the measurements of the drawing or model with the actual measurements. So for instance, on a map, you might see the scale 1 inch is the same as 10 miles. So how do we find an actual distance from a drawing or model? Well, here we have a picture of or a map of Central Park, and we want to know what the actual perimeter is around Central Park. Okay, so the first step is to physically measure the distance with the ruler around Central Park in this map. Okay, and we found that to be 30 centimeters. Okay, so now we can use scale or a ratio table to find the actual distance or the actual perimeter of Central Park. Okay, so the scale that we're given is here. 1 centimeter is the same as 320 meters. So 1 centimeter is the same as 320 meters. And we measured the perimeter on our map to be 30 centimeters. And we want to know the actual perimeter. So we set it up like this, and then we use our cross product to solve. So 1 times x is x, and 30 times 320 is 9,600. So the actual distance around or perimeter of Central Park is approximately 9,600 meters. We could also use a ratio table. Right, so our ratio, our scale is 1 centimeter is the same as 320 meters. And we measured on our map to be 30 centimeters, and 1 times 30 gives me 30. So 320 times 30 will give me my answer, which is 9,600 meters. Okay, so now it is time for you to write in your notes. There are a few fill in the blanks, and then I would like for you to solve or find the actual distance using the cross product or the ratio table. So you need to solve for x, and then you need to fill in the empty box in the ratio table. And now that you've done that, let's talk about finding a scale factor. Scale factor is the value of the ratio. And scale factor should use a scale with the same units, inches to inches, feet to feet, seconds to seconds, what have you. The units must be the same. So let's look at an example. We have a scale model or a picture of the Sergeant Floyd Monument, and we've measured it, pretend, to be 10 inches tall. Okay, but we know the actual monument is 100 feet tall. So the first question we want to know is, what does 1 inch represent in this picture? Okay, so we measured it to be 10 inches, and we know that's the same as 100 feet. But our goal is to see what 1 inch represents. So in order to go from 10 to 1, we need to divide by 10. We do that to the top, we need to do it to the bottom. So 10 divided by 10 is 1, and 100 divided by 10 is 10. So 1 inch in the model represents 10 feet in real life. Okay, now what is the scale factor of the model? Now remember that the scale factor is a ratio that has 1 as the numerator, 1 over some number. That's going to be your scale factor. Okay, it's very important to remember. So in order for us to find the scale factor of this, we already have 1 on top, don't we? We have 1 inch on top, but we have 10 feet on the bottom. So how do we change that 10 feet? Because remember, our units must be the same. So how do we change that 10 feet into inches? Well, there is 12 inches in 1 foot, right? So let's multiply this 10 by 12, and that will give us the number of inches, which is 120. So 1 inch to 120 inches. Remember, 120 inches is the same as 10 feet. So this right here is actually our scale factor, 1 to 120. Okay, time for you to write in your notes. There are 3 small fill in the blanks. And now, time to do 1, 2 practice problems. Okay, let's take a look at practice problem number 1. Let's pretend with a ruler you measured the distance on the map, the distance between Boston and Massachusetts. This distance here, let's pretend you measured that to be 2 inches on your ruler. Okay, so if you measure that to be 2 inches on your ruler, what is the approximate distance in real life between Boston and New York? Well, here's our scale, which is 1 inch, the same as 100 miles in real life. Okay, we measured it to be 2 inches, our distance in that line there. And now we need to solve for the approximate distance between Boston and New York in real life, which is our x value here. So how do we do that? Use your cross product. X times 1 is x, which equals 2 inches times 100 miles. So what is the approximate distance between Boston and New York? Okay, practice problem number 2. We have the model of the Space Needle, and actually it's a picture, isn't it? And we measured it to be, let's pretend, this distance here is 20 inches. Okay, but the actual Space Needle is approximately 600 feet tall. So question number 1, A, what does 1 inch represent in the model? Well, we have 20 inches we measured, right? It's the same, we know, as 600 feet, right? But we want to know how much 1 inch is. We want 1 inch on the top. And to do 1 inch on the top, we need to divide this by 20 and divide this by 20, right? 20 divided by 20 gives me 1. 600 divided by 20 gives me 30 feet. Okay. So 1 inch in the model represents 30 feet. Now, what is the scale? The scale, well, 1 inch, 30 feet. But what about the scale factor? The scale factor, we need to change this into what? Into inches. Okay, so for our scale factor, 1, we know it's going to be a ratio with 1 as the numerator and a number on the bottom. 2, we want it to have the same units. Okay, so let's change 30 feet into inches. What is that? 30 times 12. Okay, so 1 inch is the same or 1 inch in the model is the same as 30 feet, which 30 feet is the same as 360 inches. Okay, now we have the same units. So now what is this part, our ratio? What is our scale factor? Okay, and that concludes 5.6.